One of the most important things to know about the 12 zodiac signs is how they relate to personality types and how they can help us understand people and their feelings and actions better. The first step towards getting a better understanding of zodiac signs is learning that there are 3 groups, including sun signs, which we'll discuss later in the talk, moon signs, and rising signs, also known as ascendant signs. Each person has one sign in each of these 3 classifications. And the most committed astrologers will use all 3 to come up with the most detailed profile of a person in respect to personality, as the other planets and houses refer to other aspects of the person, which we won't cover in this talk. So sun sign astrology, this focuses on the 12 sun signs of the zodiac, and it's essentially a simplified way of doing things. It's a characteristic of Western astrology. That doesn't mean it's not a sophisticated system, though. Western astrology is rooted in ancient Mesopotamia and Greece, and as such, it is over 2,000 years old. The Babylonians and the Greeks are the most credited cultures when it comes to the early development of the system. But others have also done an important part in preserving it, such as the Romans and the Arabs. Much of what has been preserved from old Hellenistic astrology is owed to the records kept by Ptolemy, a Roman mathematician and astronomer, astrologer, and geographer in the 2nd century AD. This is now known as Western astrology, and it's widely used. In that regard, astrological signs are the 12 signs that represent 30-degree sectors of the ecliptic, which is the plane of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. The signs begin at something called the vernal equinox with the sign of Aries. But without going into too much detail, the signs are based on individual constellations that are visible within the zodiac. This is the name that's been given to a particular belt or area that we can observe in the sky, 8 degrees north or south of the ecliptic. This is the path of the sun across the celestial sphere in the course of a year, or more precisely, the tropical year, which is the time it takes for the sun to find its way back to the same position. This relates to what we can observe from here on Earth. Within that same zodiac belt, we can observe the paths of the moon and the planets, all of which are important for Western astrology. But the zodiac itself is, and all the astronomical details that play a part in astrology deserve a book of their own. So this talk will focus on the practical ways these different factors might affect us on a personal level. Before we dive into the 12 signs, let's clear up a few more things about what the different signs are and what additional aspects and characteristics and classifications of these signs astrologers use to get a clear picture of a person's birth chart and how it affects them. When a person is born, the stars, the planets, and the sun will be in certain positions when observed from Earth. And this will determine the person's natal chart. This is how a person's sun, moon, and rising signs are identified. As we briefly mentioned, the sun sign is the one that everybody knows. As its name suggests, the sun sign is determined by the zodiac sign in which the sun can be observed on your birthday. And each sign, the sun relates to the Earth differently, affecting us all. In some signs, the sun is further away or is visible for fewer hours a day, while in others, our life-sustaining star is at its most powerful and radiant. Based on these and other properties, related to each of the 12 signs, we're given certain traits and characteristics at birth. Exactly what sun sign astrology studies. The position of the moon determines your moon sign. The sun influences a much subtler, hidden side of your nature and identity. The moon sign can influence your emotional characteristics, especially those that you can't always express, those that remain in your mind, hidden. So think of the things like your inner monologue, or your thoughts, your intuition, maybe your taste, your preferences, and other things we all hear in our minds and hearts. The rising or ascendant signs now are perhaps the ones you hear the least about. Now I'm just going to add here that the moon sign is actually a really big part of who we are. I mean, you could say that 50-50 our personality is sun and moon. But the sun sign is much of our expression, whereas the moon sign is essentially who we are on the inside. And the reason for this is because this is a lunar race. All the creatures on Earth, most of them are lunar in that there is a lot of subconscious matter in our psyche. So 97% of the psychological makeup of this human species is subconscious. It is not simply conscious. It is subconscious, or another word is egotistical or egoistic. And that subconsciousness it's lunar, right? So it's completely influenced and governed by the moon. That's why moon signs are so important. As we awaken, the different signs shed away, and the moon sign is one of the major things that comes out first, or rather gets reduced first. The inner desires and anxieties and tastes and fears that sheds away. We lose the influence of the earth as we awaken. We lose conditioning when we evolve spiritually, and we grow away from the influence, and we grow the superconscious mind, which is solar. Okay, continuing here. So your rising sign can most aptly be described as the social you, and it's the one that was on the, or rather that is on the eastern horizon at your time of birth. The sign is the social you because it is the manifestation of how you present yourself to the world. And nearly everyone does this to some extent. We dress a certain way, we adopt styles, we choose which parts of the real personality we want to reveal and which parts we want to conceal. So it's often described as how other people see us and how we want to be seen by others. Now, your sun sign will be enough to determine your sign's core traits. There are many reasons why it's important to understand the signs of the zodiac, especially your sun sign. For one, you'll get a better understanding of your strengths and weaknesses while also learning how to make the most of them. You'll gain the same insight into other people, which will help you deal with conflict and in a more productive, constructive way. You'll empathize more and improve your existing relationships. Now let's go over the elements. This has to do with the 4 temperaments. In my previous talk, this is the relationship between the temperaments and astrology. So as we explore the details and the traits of each of the 12 signs, it will become much clearer how the elements, the modality, and other classifications come into play. But for now, let us start by pointing out that there are 4 elements, just like there are 4 temperaments, including fire, earth, air, and water. In fact, these are synonymous, so they're not separate. These elements are equal in importance and power, and they all rule different areas and have unique characters. These 4 elements are also called the classical elements because they were identified and described by Empedocles. I don't know how to pronounce Empedocles, I guess. Empedocles. Maybe that's a Western pronunciation. Empedocles, a Greek philosopher in the 5th century. Each of the 12 zodiac signs are imbued with one of these 4 elements or temperaments, and those 4 are equally distributed among the 12. The signs, the elemental classifications are further divided into 2 groups according to their polarity, with fire and air signs being positive or active, and water and earth signs being negative or passive or receptive. Likewise, the active signs are masculine and the passive signs are feminine, which is, one very major reason why the gender identities that we're seeing these days have some actual legitimacy. I should say the gender theory has a real practical application to it. So among the positive signs, we have fire signs. They're Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And then the air signs include Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. As for the passive or receptive signs, we have earth signs, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. And then we have the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. As we explore the different signs, we'll consider how the respective modality, the respective elements influence each sign. Now let's cover modality. Among the 4 elements, each includes 3 modalities, which are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So each modality influences 4 signs and determines quite a lot about their nature. Cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. These signs are also called reacting or reactive signs. The name of this class of signs suggests that they're important. They're symbolized by the fact that each sign marks the start of a new season. As for the fixed modality signs, these include Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, and Aquarius. The fixed modality are associated with stability, strong will, depth, and other characteristics. So notice how these different modalities are actually different elements too. We're not grouping them in the same element anymore. Now, one way the fixed modality affects these signs is by making them resilient to change, but you'll learn later how that translates to personal traits in each sign. Finally, there are the 4 mutable signs, including Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Mutable modality has the opposite influence on that of fixed modality, largely. These signs are adaptable and flexible, among other things. These signs love to experience and influence change. What's also important for these is that they each mark the end of a season. The planetary rulership, let's cover that. So each of the 12 zodiac signs is ruled by at least one planet in the solar system. In the simplest terms, these are the special relationships that the zodiac signs have with celestial bodies in our system. When a person is born under a certain sign, the position of these planets can influence them in various ways. In Western astrology, each sign has classical and modern ruling planets, which are the same in all but 3 cases, these being Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces. Furthermore, each planet has its own properties and traits, usually embodied in the gods of many past mythologies. Planetary rulership of each sign is for Aries, it's Mars. For Taurus, it's Venus. For Gemini, it's Mercury. For Cancer, the Moon. For Leo, it's the Sun. Virgo, Mercury. Libra, Venus again. And Scorpio has Pluto modern and Mars classical. Sagittarius has Jupiter. Capricorn has Saturn. Aquarius has Uranus as modern and Saturn as classical. And Pisces has Neptune as, Neptune as modern and Jupiter as classical. Now, regarding the planets, there are other factors that astrologers will consider when looking at an individual's birth chart. For instance, a planet can be exalted or in detriment in certain signs. So rulership is not to be misunderstood as meaning that a planet is guaranteed to be in a certain sign. When a planet is in a sign which is said to be in a detriment, it will be in a weakened state, in a hindered state, meaning that it can't reach its full potential and will ultimately have some negative influence on the person born under that placement. But a planet will be exalted when it's placed in its home sign or domicile, which means it will be strongest. And you'll learn more about this later on in this talk. Let's cover the houses. The last thing to clear up before we begin in astrological is astrological houses, which is another system of dividing the horoscope, and this time into 12 parts. The positions of these houses are determined by physical location and the time of day instead of a date. And so as such, houses are another important factor that astrologers consider when creating somebody's natal chart. The classification is rather simple, outlining 12 houses from the 1st to the 12, and all of which correspond to the 12 zodiac signs. Now, the following is a list of the astrological houses, their corresponding zodiac signs, and one respective variation of their title each. The first house is Aries, the house of the self. The second house is Taurus, the house of value and finance and possessions. The third house is Gemini, the house of communication and sharing. The fourth house is Cancer, house of home and family. The fifth house, Leo, house of pleasure. The sixth house is Virgo, the house of health. The seventh house is Libra, house of balance. The eighth house is Scorpio, the house of transformation. The ninth house is Sagittarius, house of philosophy. The 10th house is Capricorn, the house of enterprise. The 11th house is Aquarius, the house of blessings. And the 12th house is Pisces, the house of sacrifice. Now let's go over moon signs, which is actually another book that they've put together in this volume or book. It says, The Ultimate Guide to Understanding Your Sign, Different Sun-Moon Astrology Combinations and Compatibility. Written by Mari Silva. So, introduction. Have you ever read your sign's horoscope and thought, well, that description didn't sound like me? And perhaps the information was completely irrelevant to where you where you were in life? Did you know that you must look beyond the sun sign? If you'd like to have a bigger picture, you must focus on your moon sign. Or maybe someone asked you what your zodiac sign was, and you immediately replied with yours. But to your surprise, your friend didn't believe you were a Sagittarius, for example. To her, you were a Pisces, or a Libra, or a Capricorn. Usually, someone is referring to your sun sign when a person asks what your sign are you, right? And while this is perfectly acceptable to ask, because the sun sign does offer a lot of glimpse into our personality and what traits we show to the world, there's more that an individual can ask you to get a clearer picture of who you really are. Your friend's words probably resonated with you, and you decided that it was time to get your research gloves on. You soon realized something called a moon sign, and the more you investigated, the more you feel like you're not a Sagittarius entirely. You probably didn't feel like the horoscope was talking to you in the first place, because even though your birth date says you're a Sagittarius, or that your sun sign is in it, then you felt more like a Pisces person. You're very emotional, and you have deep connection with going under the water and discovering your true inner world. You're investigative, you're patient, you don't get bored easily, you don't like to socialize and go out clubbing and stuff like that. This happens because you have a Pisces moon. So for the horoscope to depict an accurate image of you, you must know your moon sign, which is not always referenced. However, you may wonder why the moon sign is important. Well, did you know that the moon has different phases, and that all of them will undoubtedly alter your perception by making you more in tune with nature? Were you aware that the moon's phases even make the ocean's tides increase or decrease? The important thing to notice is that both the sun and the moon signs need one another to maintain a healthy lifestyle. You cannot have one without the other. They work together to form the whole self. Even though at first glance the moon seems like it is constantly transforming itself and moving from one side to another, whereas the sun is simply there just being the sun, this isn't entirely true. It's not like the moon constantly changes throughout the month. It's more of a case of perception. Your perception of the moon changes continuously during the month. Hence, sometimes you see a bigger full moon, and other times you don't see it at all. Or maybe you only see half of it. It's not that the moon is not there. It's more to do with the darkened areas that are not illuminated for you to see them. There are 8 moon phases. A new moon, which is when the moon is not visible at all. A waxing crescent moon is when there is a very thin crescent of the moon's left side. The first quarter is when the first quarter of the moon can be seen, also referred to as the half moon. Then there's the waxing gibbous. It's a glowing phase between the half moon or the first quarter and the full moon. Then the waxing is synonymous with increasing size or getting bigger. A full moon is when you can see the whole moon. The waning gibbous is the phase between the full moon and the half moon again. Waning is synonymous with decreasing in size or getting smaller. The third quarter is when the moon is half again. It shows in contrary to the first quarter of the moon. And the waning crescent is when there is a very thin crescent phase of the moon's right side. It takes about 28 days for the moon to orbit around Earth. When this happens, the moon will complete its cycle. If you divide 28 by 12, as in 12 different sun signs, you'll get 2.3. And this is the number of days the moon will spend on each moon sign. As a result, the moon will also give you that sign, with your moon sign. Sure thing. Here is the transcription. Okay, so let's understand sun and moon signs. So what is the sun sign? Well, the sun sign is usually synonymous with the zodiac sign, as most people interpret it that way. The sun sign will tell you what the sun's position was at the moment you were born. And as a result, there are 12 sun signs because there are 12 months in a year. A person can only be one sun sign and one moon sign, but that doesn't mean that you cannot have characteristics from other signs in your birth or natal chart. Also, a different planet is actively ruling each sun sign, and this will also have direct consequences on your personality traits or your choices. For example, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is known for bringing intellectual characteristics to those born with that sign. Think of a natal chart as if you were taking a picture of the sky and the universe exactly at the moment you were born. All those planets and signs will depict your personality and your life. So what is a moon sign? The moon sign tells you the position of the moon at the time you were born, but the main differences between the sun and the moon signs are that the sun signs will display your personality traits and how your character is, whereas your moon signs will display how you are doing subconsciously and with your emotional side, what moods you have, how you manage your instinct, and what subconscious behaviors you believe in and simply have. In other words, the sun sign is the outer shell and the moon sign is the inner shell. For example, Taurus is passionate, outgoing, and loves pleasure and things related to the earth. If a Taurus has a Pisces moon, they will become very introspective or introverted. They will enjoy the desires expressed in their dreams, and they will focus more on the inner depths of their personality. However, if a Taurus has a different moon sign, they will display a distinct set of characteristics from Taurus Pisces. This will make them more unique than ever. This can be explained simply. The sun usually takes longer, more precisely about 30 days to transition from one star sign or sun sign on to the next. But the moon moves faster than the sun, and it will only stay in one particular sign or 2.5 days at a time. So it's more challenging to discover the moon sign because there is a need for more detailed information to get an accurate reading. So how can a person calculate their moon sign? You can find your moon sign by using an online program or a special table that will allow you to see where the moon was transitioning the moment you were born. And when doing so, you'll first need to write when you were born. Write down the date, the month, and the year. And you can use all sorts of online calculators for this. Many of them are free. Or you can get a professional astrologer to help you. You need all this information because the moon's position depends entirely on where you were born. If you were born in Asia, your moon would be in one position, and if you were born in South America, your moon would be in another. If you don't have this information, you can always put the nearest place or time that you think you were some nearby place, basically. It will not give you an accurate description, but it would help either way. The results you get are your natal chart. There you will discover your moon sign, but you'll soon realize that there are many houses. These are the ones that represent different areas or stages of life. They also offer you a glimpse of how you respond to those situations and express your emotions. So for example, a person with Sagittarius moon in the 9th house will likely feel great when they successfully explore something new and become a master. This is because the 9th house represents expansion, and the planet Jupiter, which is known for all great things, also governs Sagittarius. So it's a native house, or rather a native planet. So this is an important aspect within the astrology world because you are an individual who likes to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd, in this case. But you first need to discover your sun and moon signs to do the rest of your birth chart. Or maybe actually, I guess this statement is in any case. Now, getting to know oneself is a never-ending process in which parts of your past are constantly appearing and waving at you. However, it also offers you the opportunity to see how you can shape your future, starting right now. When you are aware of your moon sign, you notice a different side of you, and you'll broaden your perspective towards life and consciously form your path. It's fair to say that all human beings have different ways of experiencing life. Everyone is built with a wide range of characteristics that shape their entire existence. They have different strengths and weaknesses, and almost everyone is actively trying to understand why they behave the way they do. Each zodiac sign has its characteristics, so it's not surprising to find these set of traits on the moon signs. For example, an Aries moon means that the person is very passionate and they have plenty of energy to go through life's most difficult situation. Or if you have a Virgo moon, the chances are you are very witty and intelligent, and you prefer to pay attention to the smallest details instead of looking at the bigger picture. And once you recognize who you truly are, what you want in life, and what you need to improve on, you'll also realize who you are and how you are becoming yourself. And knowing your moon sign can really help you achieve all this. In my opinion, it's like discovering your other half, the other side of you that you weren't fully aware of. And it explains so much about certain confusions in your life, all the parts of you that didn't make sense, that didn't seem to resonate with your sun sign. The moon sign explains it. So what are the moon signs, and why are they important to modern astrology? What do they tell people about their personalities and the ways of looking at life? Well, here you'll learn about the different and possible 144 combinations between the sun and moon signs. And this information is relevant for any inner journey, as you'll soon discover whether your sun and moon signs are at peace or if there's friction between them. And I would argue that in a sense there's more, maybe there are 144 combinations, but each 144 combinations also has a couple more possibilities because of cusps, right? So even if you have, Sagittarius sun and Libra moon, are they pure? Probably not. You could have a cusp. It could actually be Sagittarius, Capricorn sun, Virgo, Libra moon. In that case, you have 4 different elements and 4 signs that just make up your sun and moon. Now, how does that make sense, right? How can you have, if sun's one sign, the moon's another sign? Well, it's because it's still one sign each, but the traits are mixed up. So you have 4 different aspects mixed together, equally balanced. I should say the cusp is an equal balance, right? That's why people will have more problems trying to overcome life situations, because their sun and moon signs are not balanced. And as a result, perhaps some sun and moon signs combinations are excellent, whereas others will probably face more challenging situations. In my opinion, it's almost always better to have opposite traits, even though it's conflicting. And even though, for example, if you have a Libra moon, but you're in Aries, that's totally contradictory, right? Libra is cooling all of the passion of Aries and reducing all of the determination and drive when there's no reason to, be ambitious, because Libra is so rational about things, and Aries tends to just do things without really, based on, impulse and passion. But always what you get is a balancing effect, right? When you have some combinations, they're not balancing, they're just unique. You get a variety of traits. But other times if the signs are too opposite, then they balance each other out. And this makes you a more rounded person, because if you only had one energy, if you had different signs, but they're the same energy, if you're Sagittarius moon, Aries sun, well, it's not a big difference. You're still double fire sign, you only have one element basically. That's very one-sided. You'll be really good at some things. You'll be good at being a fire sign, all the things that they do, but you'll be very bad at other things, like what water signs have, cultivating compassion and remorse and, right, or introspection, reflection, which is what water signs do. You'll have trouble with that. And that's, so if you have Cancer moon instead and Aries sun, then you're balanced. You can have both traits. So it's always that compromise of either being hyper focused and really good and really out of balance, or being pretty good and, like, you know, have potential to be great at a lot of things, but more balanced and rounded, more traits, more variety. If you'd like to truly find out what your personality is like, and most importantly, why it's the way that it is, you need to know both of these signs, both of these planets. And once you gather this information, you can work towards improving yourself. You can amend the differences between both sides. You can join them in strength. It's important to be aware of all the different parts of your chart. Well, once you understand the sun and moon, that's great. Now that's your personality. But you can also move on to other aspects of your life. If you have already discovered the world behind the sun signs, move on to the moon. Your moon is an essential piece of inner self-discovery. As I said, this species, human species, and most of the animals on this planet is 97% subconscious. We're lunar species. So we're significantly part of the moon. Those interested in astrology and who have studied the moon sign's influence are aware that the moon influences people's decision-making and perception. However, the moon also tells you how to feel, or makes you feel at home most of the time. The moon is the one that governs your inner self, and you need to have this information to see what makes you happy and what makes you unique. Your moon sign will explain who you are on a deeper level, and what you need to work on, and why you need to do so. Your moon sign will also expose your sun sign's strengths and weaknesses. You'll go after the sun, asking why they reacted a certain way, or told you to do something different from what the moon ordered. But it will also give you a new dynamic that you have not thought about, because when your sun and moon are mixed, they complement you. Moreover, the moon will change shapes within a cycle that lasts more than 28 days. So it will go from full moon to waxing and waning phases, to crescent phases, to finally becoming visible when it's in the new moon phase. This will have a profound impact on your decisions, the decisions you make, and your mood. If you're a woman, this could even affect your menstrual cycle. Consequently, the moon is bound to change you in different ways throughout one single month. And what's more, there's a gravitational force present in nature. When the moon is closest to the Earth, the moon's tides will grow exponentially. From a broader perspective, it can be argued that the sun is the male energy, the predominant one, and the father figure that goes out of its way to shine a light even in the darkest of areas. Whereas the moon is associated with the feminine energy. And I'll add that actually intrinsically, yes, the solar forces and the lunar forces are, for one is masculine, the sun. The lunar force is feminine. One's active, one's receptive. One's conscious, one is subconscious. So this is the feminine energy. The lunar is a motherly figure, and it represents nature and how nature's cycles go around. The sun represents logical thinking, while the moon represents raw feelings. The sun sign is the first to act towards something, while the moon sign will react towards One second here. The sun sign is the first sign to act towards something, while the moon sign will react towards things. The essential thing to know is that all human beings have an innate female and male energy. They're like yin and yang. Everyone is both colors. However, society teaches you that you need to choose one and focus on that person. But if you are male, you also have subtle male energy that you need to nurture. And if you're female, you too have subtle male energy that you need to take care of. So the importance here is to find a balance between these two energies and discover it through your sun and moon signs. But it's not to say that one sign is more important than the other. On the contrary, it's impossible to determine the one that affects an individual the most. Both signs are mutually dependent on one another. It almost seems like there is a strong gravitational force that makes the two signs work together. If you're looking into ways of having a deeper interconnection and understanding your feelings and overall reactions, have a look at your moon sign. If your moon sign is the same as your sun sign, this means you were born under a new moon when the sky was completely dark and welcoming you. And on the contrary, if your moon sign is directly opposite to your sun sign, it means you were born under a full moon. So instead of separating yourself from others, you're bringing everything closer together. In the world of astrology, knowing your moon sign is paramount to learning more about your birth chart. Your emotional personality is presented throughout your moon sign. If you were to focus on your sun sign constantly, you would discover one side of your energy, that male energy. You would also be leaving behind some relevant information about your feminine side. But a moon sign can also explain why sometimes you act under a cardinal or fixed or mutable perspective. Perhaps your sun is fixed, but your moon is mutable, so you seek interchange intensely. When these energies collide, they will shape your personality. But you need to become aware of them to make these energies work alongside you on your behalf. If not, the sign's traits will work and play whenever they want to do so. So it would be best to work on your birth chart with someone who knows